And welcome into the TexAgs post-game wrap where Texas A&M defeats UTSA 42-24. And this is presented to you by TKO Equipment, your Aggie-owned and operated Texas construction and aggregate equipment dealer. It's founded 47 years ago by the Smith family. Aggie classes of 60, 67, 69, and 73 continuing today with classes of 73, 98, and 12 actively involved. They're headquartered in DFW with fully stocked branch offices in New Braunfels. TKO proudly serves all of Texas and has the equipment and expertise and passion for services to keep your job up and running. TKO is also your exclusive Texas screen machine dealer. Give them a call today for all of your earth-moving or aggregate equipment needs, or simply visit www.tkoequipment.com to learn more. All right, let's get into this bad boy. Not a great start to the second half, and then the defense brought some heat. And how about the new additions? Our panel, as always, Chris Harrington here in studio. Hello, sir.
Hey there.
What up? Sorry, that was awkward. And Brandon Leone. What's up, Brandon?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm going to continue making it awkward. And CT, hello, sir. I know you'll be ready for me. What's up, CT?
What's going on, guys? How y'all doing?
All right, guys. So I kind of alluded to it. I feel like we have these games often, right, to start the season where there's a quarter or two and everybody's panicking because A&M's only winning by 3, 7, 10, whatever it is. I'm getting texts from my brother Alex. I'm getting texts from everybody, Twitter, the threads. At the end of the day, like the Kent State game, it takes time for things to kind of get going. And Chris, you start us off. It wasn't, I think, what we wanted to see completely, but the adjustments they made, to me, was what we wanted to see.
Yeah, we got off to a slow start. I would have liked to see the running game and get established early. We never really established the running game, but we took care of business, as we got into the third quarter and got ahead and, got the starters out of there. But I think, there's a lot of tape to watch, a lot of things to learn. I was a little disappointed on the, line of scrimmage. I was hoping that we'd establish the line of scrimmage and win the line of scrimmage, and I'm not sure we did. And I don't know if that's really, because they have a great running back. He looked great tonight.
Yeah, he did.
I don't think we did a great job, setting edges in the secondary. I don't think we did a great job, establishing the run game, being dominant up front. But we got the W, came away healthy. It looked like the guys were conditioned well for the game. So,
Brandon, what was your big takeaway from tonight?
Yeah, I think, obviously I agree with Chris. I think in the first half, the line of scrimmage was a bit of a concern. I don't think that we created a lot of openings for the running backs. I think our defensive lines, whether it was the play calling that they did or spreading the field a little bit, I think we gave them way too many big plays on the running game. Obviously, same thing, the way we started the second half with the big play. But you got to do a better job of gap assignment. I think our front seven has to do a much better job because we're going to face much more talented teams in the future later in the year, especially in a few weeks at Notre Dame. But some positives, man. I think that it was obvious that they were not trying to cut Le'Veon loose tonight, and I think they were trying to focus. I say that. It depends on what the defense was doing. But Marcel, to me, he missed a few throws early on, especially obviously the deep ball where KC was wide open. But I think Marcel looked sharp, and I agree with you, Nuno. I think we made some adjustments. And then my biggest takeaway, and we'll jump into it more in depth here in a few minutes, but Elko did a hell of a job in the portal. I think every single addition he made on the offense was impactful today. And then also I think the play of our special teams in week one was really good. And so, some of those things about giving up big plays in run game, giving up 200 yards rushing to UTSA, which is not a terrible team, but we'll play much more talented teams. I think we need to shore things up on the defense with our fits. We gave up outside contain on the defense at the line of scrimmage and at the corner level a few times. Ratcliffe and one of the corners got pinned in on that touchdown. So there's a couple things, but you watch the rest of the country today. It's week one. A lot of that stuff is to be expected. Not that the coaches are going to show much grace in the film room, but overall, week one, I imagine we'd start kind of slow and then we would out-talent them in the end, and we did. So I'm happy with it. And some of the results from the earlier games I was also very happy with. So it's not a bad day.
CT, give us some thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I felt that it was a typical game one. You want to see a little bit more from your defense, being able to control the run game and be able to slow them down. But, from a run standpoint on the offensive side of the ball, I don't know that was the game plan or what the thought was going in. I thought it was get Marcel comfortable, let him get out there and play with those new toys and things that he's had. I mean, we've got our running backs back in the backfield. So I really do think it was a game to try to get Marcel comfortable, get him acclimated to the new personnel that we have on offense and see what we can do to make plays. And there are a couple of plays there that you want to see him make, as our starter, but that's just going to come with time. And I think the positive thing here is you have a couple of weeks against some opponents that we should beat and we should win those games. And so we have a couple of weeks to really kind of iron out those things. And from a run game standpoint, I don't know that I'm that concerned. I mean, you bring back 5 guys, you bring back your entire offensive line from last year. And so I'm not sure that the focus was on ground and pound. Our top 2 running backs are both coming off of injuries. So how much do you really want to subject them to that beating and getting banged up and things like that? Because we've got a huge one in 2 weeks from now. So, but defensively, yeah, it was a little concerning because our guys were there and they had seams and they were gaseous. But I think once they have that 75-yard run, as you saw from there, from the rest of the game, defense buckled in. They settled in, started making plays. They were flying around. Guys were hitting. I think guys were in position. They were understanding and being in their right fits. So overall, we want to have a shutout. We want to have a perfect game, but it's week one. You're going to have those mistakes. You have guys that haven't played with each other. You have guys getting used to each other. So week one, now, do we take a step forward in week 2? I think from a fan standpoint, you have to look at it as, are we improving each and every week? Do we see things that are improving? Are guys still making the same mistakes? And so, they'll go and watch the tape tomorrow. They'll make those corrections and get ready for Utah State. But overall, hey, you came out of this game healthy for the most part. You saw some things that your quarterback did some positive things. And more importantly, you got the win today.
On the pregame show with the great Richard Zane, I said that A&M was going to win 40-24. I wasn't that far off. I don't know if I knew it was going to go this way. But this is something I tweeted out during the game. And Chris, start us off here. Since that 75-yard run, UTSA totaled just actually a negative yard of offense from that point forward up until they took out the starters, okay? They did not do anything. In that span, A&M outscored them 21-0. They were not running on A&M anymore. They weren't getting anything done. I think Elko probably had a mouthful for them. What changed?
Yeah, I just remember playing early season games like this. The depth of the A&M roster versus the UTSA roster, and then the guys look good. They look well conditioned. Guys look bigger. They look stronger. They look faster. Like CT said, come out of this game healthy. I think we look great. I think we were flying around. Obviously, some fits got to get fixed, but they buckled down when they needed to. But you can't give up those big plays. We've got to improve. We've got to improve on the corners. We got to improve on the edges. We got to improve on our run fits.
I forget the exact stat, but Olin was kind of tabulating it. And Brandon, there was a point where 11 plays were responsible for basically 85% of their offense. And the third down conversions that they were getting, at one point it was 4 of 7. I think they ended up with, how many third down conversions did they have? It's not showing up here. But bottom line, they were 5 of 16. 4 of those were by double-digit yards. So they had 3rd and 10, 3rd and 14, and they converted 4 of their 16. At one point, though, it was 4 of 7 for the record.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a defense, when you get ahead of the chains and you get them in 3rd and long or these long distances to convert, I think that a key to winning big games, especially some of the teams that we're going to play later in the schedule, is ensuring that you finish the job. And you can't give up those big plays. I think one of their big plays early on, it was 3rd and 11 or 3rd and 10, and they had an 18, 19-yard run. we can't allow that to happen. And if we look back on last season, the things that I think hurt us at the end, it kept us from getting to putting ourselves in a position where we wanted to be as a team, playing for an SEC championship. I think it's the fact that we gave up too many big plays. And even early on when we started, again, it's week one, some of the penalties that were drive killers, giving up these big plays, like you said, on third down, letting them make these plays where we should be getting them off the field. Those are the things that concern me, but not as much as a lot of people probably will be saying. We'll have some fans, we'll have some people that will be extremely critical because they, like CT said, you want to see a perfect game. You want to see us beat UTSA 49-3, but it's a talented roster for the team that they are. And ultimately for me, I think that, like you said, Nuno, after that big play to open up the second half, I feel like we settled in as a defense. It seemed like we were communicating better on the back end. We were having better fits. We were containing better. And like you said, David, the coaching adjustments that we made in the second half, minus the first big play, were encouraging. And so, yeah, is it encouraging to, give up 200 yards to a team like UTSA and rushing? No. Is it encouraging that a team that replaced all 11 starters and us not be able to have a big lead going into the half at home in week one? No, it's not. But like Chris said, the roster talent that we have and the coaching adjustments that were made in the second half showed you that this team has a lot of potential. But there's a lot of things we got to get cleaned up. And luckily, we, like CT said, we have one more week to kind of dial in before we really see what this team is about when we head up to South Bend. So I'm happy we came away with a win. I'm happy we stayed healthy. And ultimately, it was a good day for the Aggies.
CT, I feel like I've done a disservice to our audience. I've gone, 10 minutes and really haven't spent time on the additions, the transfer additions, KC and Mario. So let me just give a couple of notes on them. KC Concepcion becomes the first Aggie to log a punt return touchdown and receiving touchdown in the same game since Christian Kirk versus New Mexico back in 2017. Here's a really great stat. Mario Craver's second receiving touchdown of the game, first multi-score game of his career, also secured the first 100-yard receiving game of his career. And a little bit more on that. Of his 116 yards, it's the most in 10 years since Christian Kirk's 106-yard outing versus Arizona State in the 2015 opener in a debut. And here's another one. 95 of those 116 yards were yards after the catch. I gave a lot of stats. CT, take it away.
I think what it really boils down to is you have two really, really talented guys that you brought in, guys that can make plays, guys that can operate in space. And so I hope Colin has a package for these guys. Get them on the same side, get them in motion, do all of these different, put them in different places within formations, because when you put the ball in their hands, something great is going to happen. They're not your guys that you think about, the 6'2", 6'3", big wide out. The little guys, they operate well in space. They're able to move. They're able to create big plays. I think that play, I think the punt return by KC was huge, just because we were exchanging punts to start the game, and then boom, we punt one to him, and he goes nuts and goes takes it back to the house. And so you look at those two additions, and then find ways to get the ball in Buss's hands. And I think that from an offensive standpoint, you've got the three backs in the backfield. So Colin has, I won't say he has his work cut out for him, but he has a lot of options on that offensive side of the ball, starting with those two guys. And so, man, I'm excited to see what they do. We know what kind of player KC was coming from NC State. We got flashes of what Craver was last year at Mississippi State. So those are really two talented guys. Marcel was able to get the ball in their hands quickly. I think that's important. Every play doesn't have to be, I got to throw it 60 yards to hit a big play downfield. Let those guys work. I've always been a big believer that get the ball into your playmakers' hands and let them go make plays. And that's what those guys were able to do tonight. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz around those guys. Had a buddy of mine that was at the game said that those guys are they get in, they get out of their breaks, and they operate really, really well in space. So excited to see what we have in store for those guys and what they're going to bring to this offense this season.
So, by the way, if you guys want to super chat, you can on the post-game wrap. If you do it on the YouTube page, we will read it immediately. Brandon, I'm going to go back to you for a second because I think it's an interesting place to be for Texas A&M fans because we know that Marcel Reed could have had a much better game. And then you look at his stat line, right? Because he missed a couple throws, right? 22 of 34, 289 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes, and 174.9 quarterback rating. You think about that for a moment and he missed some throws. The guy was, how often do you get a quarterback that you think, I wish I would have seen more from Marcel, and he did all that? He just missed a couple of throws, but overall he was solid.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the one big throw that he missed. What's everybody talking about if he hits that deep ball down the field to KC where he's wide open, right? And so that changes the stat line significantly. You think about the casual A&M fan that's not watching the game. They're looking at the bottom line and they see Marcel's numbers. If he connects on that ball to KC, they're like, oh my goodness, this guy's improved a ton. He can throw the ball. I personally was very impressed at the way that Marcel played the game. He had a couple throws early on in the game that he missed that I was like, oh man, like when he was rolling out on the first drive, throwing across his body and it wasn't anywhere near the receiver. That was a little bit, I don't want to say it's concerning, but that was not like an ideal throw. But ultimately, the thing that I think we did, Nuno, and that I think Marcel did, like CT said, we didn't try to hit the big play every single time. We attacked the middle of the football field. We found ways to get the ball into our playmakers' hand and created space for them to hit those yards after catch like you're talking about. And I think Marcel settled in, man. His first few drives weren't ideal, but by the end of the game, I mean, we won the game well enough for them to pull him with a comfortable lead and put our second string guy in and get him some reps. And so I think Marcel was one of the more encouraging things of like, and like you said, people might not be blown away by his numbers but you just announced the stats. The QBR was through the roof. And I mean, 4 touchdowns, no picks, over 250 yards. And he created space and got some first downs with his legs. And he was our leading rusher. And so ultimately, to me, Marcel was not a cause of concern tonight. It was more of a cause of encouragement that the guy really has dialed in. He's progressed as a passer. And I think he's going to be someone that we can depend on a lot as the future goes on. Because I don't know if we didn't try to establish the run tonight or if it was like CT said, you don't want to get Ruben and Le'Veon beat up. But Marcel looked good. Yep. And so I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged a lot from him.
Chris, let's tackle that for a moment. The run game, kind of underwhelming, especially considering what we thought this team their identity was going to be. They could throw the ball. I think they're going to be fine running the ball. And then when Ruben had his 30-yard run, which was, by the way, a career high for him. Congratulations to Ruben for doing that, or getting that, I should say. What did you see from the offensive line with their run blocking, and what was the issues establishing their running identity?
Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't see anything specifically that really stood out to me other than the line of scrimmage was not moving forward and the holes were not opening up. So kudos to the UTSA defensive front. It's a 3-4, so a lot of linebacker fits. Shad Banks, he had a couple plays where he shot through there and looked good. But, I can't say enough how exciting it was to watch the offense with KC and Mario Cravers. Those are absolutely pieces that we needed, into this offense. We know we can run the ball. We know we've got a better offensive line. That was a big part of our identity last year was running the ball. And you saw those guys get worn down through the season. And so new team, new year, new identity. We've got explosive playmakers at the wide receiver positions, got explosive playmakers, the running back position. You've got Bussy, you're making plays on special teams. This is an explosive offense. I'm super excited about that. I'm more concerned about our run defense and our run fits. And I was watching Elko on the sideline. He wasn't happy about it either. Yeah. Because he's really emphasized that through the offseason. So I'm sure they're going to figure out, they're going to dial it in. They're going to get it, watch this film, make adjustments during practice, and he's going to be so focused and on those guys that they're going to get it fixed.
CT, let's talk Torian York for a moment. 10 tackles, all right? It's the 5th time he's had a double-digit outing. with Texas A&M, and it felt like Shad Banks was dominating on the other side. He had 7 tackles. Torian had more. What did you see from Torian today, CT?
Yeah, I think you saw what you expect from him. He's just a constant in the middle of that defense. He's a captain. He's getting guys lined up, and you see now that he's what we consider a vet. A vet in that defense. I think he's understood how to watch and to understand and analyze the other team's offense, and because of that, he is getting to the ball. He's recognizing. Now it's not where he's waiting for things to happen and then reacting to it. He knows what's coming and he's triggering and he's getting there a lot faster. So I think that goes into the preparation piece. I think a lot of people think that you just come out on Saturdays and you just go and play football, but the preparation all week, in this case, all summer to get ready for UTSA, he's probably watched 1,000 hours worth of tape and understands what that offense is trying to do. And so getting himself in a position to be able to be successful and make plays while also helping to get his teammates and things lined up. I just think that comes from a preparation piece. But when you have guys in front of you like a DJ Hicks, you have an Albert Regis, it makes it a little bit easier to get to those to get to the ball and be able to tackle as well. But I thought Torian played well tonight. He's going to have a great season for us, for that defense, for us to be able to be the defense that we want to be. And so I thought he played lights out, expecting big things from him. I'm excited to see what Scooby Williams does. Coming back from an injury that just played on it all season last year, I think we have a really, really solid linebacker crew. We just got to, like Chris said, we've got to share those fits up and make sure that we're in the places that we're supposed to be, and we're still in the football to the places that we're supposed to spill to, and let the guys be there to make the tackles. But Torian plays behind up.
Brandon, let's close out with this question. So a lot of people want to see a finished product in week 1. And I got some text messages saying, if you would have taken on Texas, if you've taken on Notre Dame, if you've taken on LSU, you get blown out today. But tell us what it's like to be in a locker room before the first game of the season. And also, by the way, UTSA is a nice caliber of opponent. I'm not poo-pooing on that at all. But they're not Texas, they're not Notre Dame, they're not LSU. So talk a little bit about how one game to the next you can see major improvements when you're not really opening up the playbook just yet or doing certain things on defense.
Well, a lot of people want to own their own business, but they're not willing to put the work in necessary to become a business owner, right? Like, a lot of people want to be their boss's boss, but they're not willing to go through all the sacrifice and the things necessary to get to that place. And as fans, you just got to understand, this is the first time we've seen a different colored jersey across from us in 8 to 9 months, right? And so as much preparation as you put in, as much training and working out as you put in, as much film that you watch and all these different things, you step in front of 100,000 people for the first time, and it's a little bit different than what you anticipate. And so I think our friends to the northwest, a little bit of us, had a tough day today, right? And so a lot of people have expectations. LSU just finished beating Clemson. And so, as fans, as you're watching these games and as you're trying to be critical and your expectations are super high, understand that these players and these coaches care way more than we care. They're putting in the work. They're sacrificing. They're doing all the things necessary to try and go and put the best performance that they can on the field each week. But it doesn't always go the way that you want it to. And as much as we have the transfer portal and the game has changed since me and Harrington and me and CT played, it takes a lot to get people on the same page and communicating well and executing at a high level. And so today, to me, it wasn't a bad day, right? There were some frustrations early on, and I think we were all probably a little bit pissed when the game was one possession and they come out and break a big play. But, as a player, ultimately, you're going to watch film on this one tomorrow. You're going to talk about it. You're going to walk through the plays that you did well and celebrate them. You're going to walk through the plays that you did not do well on and try to correct that and learn and grow and improve. And you're going to focus and change and shift gears for Utah State. And so ultimately, you just got to take it 1 week at a time, or 0-0, We're week 2 of year 2 of Coach Elko and this staff, and ultimately, you just got to understand that it's a process, and more so now than it was, I think, when me and the other 2 guys on this post-game show played. It's a lot different, man. You got a lot of new faces, and like Harrington said, be encouraged, man. Like Elko and this staff hit the portal hard, and those guys were difference makers today. And we didn't have to lean on our veteran offensive line and running backs. We were able to lean on these guys that are 1 year in the system, and they went out there and changed the game, not only in the offense but also on special teams to help us get a win. So, I'm excited about it, and I think that these guys got a shot, but it's 1 week at a time. We're not going to be. I'm not saying we're going to be SEC champions. I'm not going to say we're going to go 6-6, but I'm happy we're 1-0, and I'm excited to see the improvement. And usually the biggest jump is from week 1 and 2 or 2 to 3 for a football team. So I'm excited to see how we come out next week.
I'm going to read this from Bronny just to close out. Something to monitor. Texas A&M had 2 wide receivers transfer out of the program. They combined to make 5 catches for 41 yards. No scores in week 1. Meanwhile, the 2 they brought in, Mario Craver and Casey Concepcion, 11 receptions, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns versus UTSA. And he didn't put this in there, but I'll throw in there the punt return touchdown for KC. So A&M definitely getting some big-time production from their transfer portal guys on the wide receiver side. Mr. Harrington, thank you very much. Brandon, CT, thank you guys. And that's going to do it for the TexAgs postgame wrap, where Texas A&M wins 42-24 over UTSA. Tomorrow, I'll be doing the Luchador podcast with Billy Lucci, and then, of course, TexAgs Live on Monday morning with the Go Hour and OB. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you then.